Hello, in this video I'm going to discuss with you how to go through some of your basic settings on the Construction Manager software. First of all, if we click on the settings button at the top of the screen and then go down to company preferences. This will give you the opportunity in the address information to enter the name of the company and your address details, telephone, email addresses, etc., as well as VAT registration numbers, national insurance numbers if applicable if you're a sole trader, and other things such as your company registration number, as well as your tax treatment. There is also the option to set in, if you're wanting to use the software to do your CIS returns, the options to put in your account office reference, PAYE reference, tax office reference, which should be the same as the PAYE reference, your unique tax code or unique tax reference, and what kind of company you are, whether that be individual, partnership, etc. There is also the gateway username and password, which will be used when you log on to the HMRC web portal, and what we need to be put in here if you are going to be using the software to do your CIS returns and log them through this software. It's worthwhile saying at this point you will only be able to do your returns through one piece of software. You would not be able to do it as a combination of each period through Construction Manager, Sage, and the online web portal for one period of time. You will only be able to submit your return through one piece of software or through the online web portal for each month or period of time that you're doing that return for. If you need any more information on this, we are happy to discuss this with you. Another area to look into in a little bit more detail will be under the settings again and defaults. So this will allow you to have basic settings within the system, and you will be able to set these, but it does not mean that it is set, for example, against the customer or the contract. You can overwrite that per customer or per contract, but these will give you an overlying theme for most of the time that you're using the system. So under the General tab to begin with, we have the options to have a new look or feel, which will allow you to have the buttons across the top, as you can see. The stack toolbar interface allows you to have down the left hand side a list of different modules, as we would call them, across the top of the page here. They will appear as in a list on the left, similar to what you've got in Sage, or if you're familiar with using Sage. So it's down to preference really of which way you want to use the system. You can, if you want to, activate that, and to do that, there's by ticking that box, you would need to log out and back in again to make that change take effect. We also have the options for things such as tender codes, which will be a bit more detailed in the contracts area, or the film that we do about setting up contracts. You can either have that sorted by alphabetical or on tender code entry. There's also things for settings such as your default bank code within Sage, and also if you want to have links to, say, job costing, or your payroll links if you're wanting to post your labour transactions and use employees that you've already got set up within Sage payroll software. We also have the option for your week 1 start date. So this will be down to tax year that you run, whether that not be from the 1st of April, 1st of January, or in some cases it could be 1st of September, as some people run. And we'll then go through to the number of weeks in the year. This will also have a knock-on effect for your labour when you're entering timesheets. Under the Customers tab, it allows you to set your retention value against that for your customers. As I said a little bit earlier, you can change that per customer or per contract as you're going along, but this will just set it as your default. So if most of the time that your retention for your customers on your sales invoices are going to be 5%, you can set that to 5% there, or obviously change it to 3 or 0, however your business operates. There are also the options to do your final retention and the retention period. On the right hand side, we have a few lists of options of what's going to basically go across to Sage. Say the invoice number to reference, for example, I have ticked at the moment, so that will post the invoice number that is generated against the sales invoices in here and go into the reference field. We can also make it so that the job number goes into the reference field, or we can have a variety of options by ticking or unticking these boxes. In a common occurrence, sometimes people use the job number to go to the details, so that would be your contract that you've got set up, just so you can cross-reference between Construction Manager and Sage for what the invoice relates to, what job, and give you a better idea of that. We've also got the option for your general default nominal code of 4000 and the tax code, but again, similarly to the retention, that can be changed per customer if required to. Under suppliers, we also have the option, or suppliers and subcontractor, I should say, the option to change your retention for the final, and discount if applicable, and the retention period, similarly to the way that you can on the customers for the sales side of things. We've also got the options to warn if you're entering a purchase invoice against a subcontractor, and if you're entering a purchase order against a subcontractor, and it should be against a supplier. We will go over in a bit more detail in another video how to convert suppliers into subcontractors, just to make it a little bit more obvious as to what we're actually explaining here. Again, similarly, we've got other options for purchase order processing, so, or POP as we're going to sometimes refer to it as. So POP uses supplier default discount. You can tick that so that the default discount rate will then be applied to every single purchase order you raise, or you can leave it unticked and then just change it for the applicable suppliers that have discount if applicable. We can also have an option which quite a few people use, which is the require insurance for the subcontractors. There is the option within the system to set insurance types up against a subcontractor, which will then allow you to say whether or not it's public liability, for example, and when that expires, and it won't let you process documentation against that subcontractor unless their insurance is valid. Under the nominals, it's pulled through from Sage for us the nominal codes that we will be using. So on the left hand side, we've got here the sales invoices of what the gross, discount, certified retention are. So these are all customizable from a drop down list to change to what is applicable for yourselves. And then on the right hand side for the subcontractor invoices, the nominal codes that they will go to. So for the subcontractor labour and materials and tax held if applicable, and then you've got for net and gross and unmatched. So you can split it out if you are going to be using the system for your CIS returns to have different codes for each area of the system of where things are going to get posted to when it goes across to Sage, or in fairly common cases you can use the same code, for example, for the subcontractor labour on both net and gross and unmatched to all go to the same code. We've also got the option of none, so that is often for companies that you want to treat or process through the software as if they are a subcontractor, but are not part of the CIS scheme. So again, that will become a little bit more evident in actual later training. The paths is usually something that our support team will be using more so than yourselves and won't have to worry too much about. The reports path will be where the reports are currently set to, and the attachments paths will be any attachments that you'll be adding into areas such as purchase orders, contracts area, will all go into a certain folder location. And the app data path is where your Sage data is held. So this area of the system will be something that you don't need to go into very often. It's only really if you haven't got a connection with Sage and are having issues in that respect, and our support desk will be able to assist with that for you. Postings will allow you to see where purchase invoices, for example, the job number is getting posted to, and then you can, for example, click on details, so it will go to the details field, and then similar to the reference is going to the reference field. At the bottom, job costing cost codes can be used so that you can say where net, for example, is going to, but more commonly now people are using tender codes rather than cost codes than when they are using our software, so it might not be something that you need to be too concerned with. We have a mobile area, which won't be something of concern for people unless you are using the mobile app. So for the Construction Manager Mobile, this area of the system is a lot more easy to look into in the .NET version of the software, so it's not tend to be something to be too worried about, as most of the people that are going to be using the mobile and the maintenance module will have purchased the .NET version of the software. There is the option to set up codes for sales and subcontractor journals if you wish to use it in that way. More people now tend to post credits and re-invoices rather than journals, but this is the area where you can set defaults. Again, that can be changed if you are posting a journal in either area for the sales or the subcontractor invoices. And the last tab we have is maintenance, which again will only be applicable if you've purchased the maintenance part of the software and is more prevalent and easy to look at within the .NET version of the software. If I close that and look at the settings again, there are some further settings that can be looked into more detail, but probably aren't really that required until you're actually going to start using the system and going live with it. And that would be for your job numbers if you want to automate them and make them start from a certain number. We've got things like skills that you can be added in against employees. We've also got, for under purchase order processing settings or POP settings, you can change the purchase order numbers, so the number that it starts from, for example. So if your current purchase ordering system that you're using has got to number 3000, we can either set it up so that Construction Manager will go from 3001 or 5000, for example, if you wanted to, so that you've got a clear indication of what numbers are on the old system and what numbers are on the new system. This is also the area for setting up within the contracts area different things such as job classifications. This can be covered in more detail at a later date though.